us have to be wise enough in our current capacity not to squander the opportunity when you get set on a path going forward. And so that cannot be overemphasized, what the Biden and Harris administration does. I have the benefit of serving on President Biden's advisory board for HBCUs, and of course we put together a plan to recommend to the president, and one of the major issues that we dealt with was infrastructure and notwithstanding preservation and growth of HBCUs, so it's important.
See, I think part of I think we said this to the White House, that when these conversations are being had, folks talk about numbers in dollars, and it's sort of just, well, we got this, we got that, even when they say, okay, $7 billion. But I believe in being real specific. So this is a spreadsheet that I got from Congressman Jim Clyburn. So fiscal year 2020, Alabama State got $49.9 million from the state of Alabama. And then with grants, the total state funding was 54.9. The federal COVID relief money that Alabama State got was $232 million. $232 million. And so the reason I'm saying that, so let me go down to Grambling, was 18 million. You throw in grants is at 18.9. COVID relief, $184.6 million. So I think it's important for our folks to understand, depending upon who's in power, depending upon who are the folks who believe in our institutions, and he purposely flew under the radar. My alpha brother, Congressman Bobby Scott, we as African Americans owe that brother a debt of gratitude because of the work that he was doing on that education committee. And this is the thing a lot of us don't understand. People say, man, CBC, I don't see what they're doing, because a lot of stuff you don't see. But the reason that amount of money came flowing to all these HBCUs was because of the work of CBC members that folks don't give credit for, and we're talking about billions and billions of dollars. Billions of dollars. So you definitely give it up. I want to start with you. You just mentioned about those 700 students, and this is where I'm real particular with. I grew up in Houston. My parents were founders of a civic club. I knew what it was like at 10, 11, 12 to go to the state capitol, to go for rallies, to go to city hall, stuff like that. Explain to our folk why we have to be just as excited going to state capitals demanding resources for our schools as we are about classics and homecoming.
Sure, great question. So I'll add a point. You didn't quote our dollars, but we're going to quote me, I think we receive about $16 million from the state every year, and our COVID relief funds were about $25 or $26 million. But in terms of advocacy and getting our students to the Capitol, it's certainly something that makes a lot of sense, right? We have to teach them what the infrastructure looks like so that they understand. So one of the things that we're fortunate that we have within our state, and I see some of our state legislatures here, our community college system gets a day. And during that day, we're able to take all of our students or some of our students to the Capitol. They're able to meet some of our local legislators. They're able to understand kind of how the government works and how we're funded as a state and as a school, but more importantly as a system of 24 colleges within Alabama. So we're certainly glad to do that. We do it in a few ways. We have a strong athletic program, and actually through our athletics program, we take all of our athletes to Montgomery for some tournaments and stuff, but we also use it as a way to advocate for our SGA and other groups as well. So each year we take about 40 students through Montgomery. They get to meet with their local legislators. They get to understand what they do, but they also get to have the opportunity to make some partnerships and make some friendships that help them along the way.
So I want to help you out. Y'all got $15 million from the state. You got $55 million in COVID. You cut it short by about $20 million.
I got the state, right?
You got the state, but you don't blow off that $55 million. Let me get about 35. No, you got more than 35. Sound like I got myself in trouble. Yeah, I'm like, hey, let me cut the money off. Rick, again, this is a huge piece, because Look, it's different when the president and your staff, when you're going to those Senate hearings and House hearings and you're meeting with legislators. It's a lot different when you're seeing folk in your school colors roaming the hallways who are constituents going in saying to state rep, state senator, we need you support my school.
Absolutely, and in Louisiana, we have University of Louisiana System Day. So if you think about, and Grambling is the only HBCU within the ULS system. So we have...
Because, yeah, that system, but Southern is its own system.
And I'm going to get to that one too. So we have over 80,000 students in the UL system. So when we have ULS Day, you have students geographically from all over the state descending on the Capitol. And
How many schools in the system?
There are 9 schools in the UL.
9 schools?
Yes.
So you're the only HBCU?
Only HBCU. That is correct. There is also HBCU Day. And so that's where public and private HBCUs descend on the Capitol for an HBCU Day. We're in the committees, we're in the halls, advocating, again, for both the public and private. Southern University, being the only HBCU system in the entire country, has a Southern University Day. So they are there at the Capitol, and quite often, you know, we have the bands, the cheerleaders, we have a number of things that really make our presence known while we're there. But what is also important, Roland, and I want to point this out, our NAACP chapter at Grambling was awarded or received an award for the most students registered by an NAACP chapter at any other school in the country. And so not only is it important to be at the Capitol, but we're registering and voting students in each election. So I think we can't overlook the importance of advocacy at the ballot box.
Quentin, I think, and I spend a lot of time on this on my show, trying to walk people through the mechanics of politics. And a lot of people just assume, all right, I voted, I can go back home, without realizing that that's the end of one process and legislating is the beginning of another, which means that we have to be there, we have to be showing up. And when a constituent walks in, it's different if somebody comes in and say, hey, we want to meet with state senator, state rep, and they're just representing the school. But it's different when a constituent, because that's a voter who's now walking in. And so I think it's important for our folk to understand why that matters when we're fighting for resources for our institutions.
Well, Roland, let me say, it's the genius of HBCUs. You know, you're talking about Alabama State University, founded by 9 free slaves with $500. Rick and I have the pleasure of serving as presidents of the institution that we graduated from. Both of us have had the pleasure of serving in the legislature. The groundwork was laid at both of our institutions. We learned parliamentary procedure at Grambling and Alabama State University, and so we took that to the legislature. But to your point, that is, you know, you just don't get elected. There's a lot of advocating that has to take place, and so, you know, and we're just blessed to have been in that space. But I tell my folks all the time, you have to go to know, because if you don't show up, then you just receive whatever they give you. But if you show up and show out in numbers, as we do in Alabama with Higher Ed Day, you know, the best band in the land is always leading the front to, the mighty marching Hornets. But interacting with our legislators, letting them know what our needs are. But not only do we have to have the philosophy of you have to go to know, we invite legislators on our campuses to kind of see and touch and feel, and you'd be amazed that people who come to Montgomery, had to come to Montgomery, you know, come out 3 months out of a year, you know, never stop by the university, is right there on the interstate. But we have to be nimble enough to welcome them in. I want to thank our colleagues who are here now, because just like they're here now, because as you said, we're their constituents, and they want to know and understand what it is that we need. Now, it's still a grind. It's a hard grind because you're competing with all of these other institutions, but I think we put the stamp on it when they really can touch you, feel you, and understand what your students are doing, and it makes all the difference in the world. So we're just blessed to have that opportunity.
The year before last, I was the guest speaker for the South Carolina State Alumni Association. They had an interim president who came in, and so it was virtual, and it was so funny because I guess they used to folk not multitasking. They don't realize when I do my show, I've got 2 iPhones and 3 iPads operating all at one time. So I'm sitting here speaking, and then I'm reading their comments while I'm speaking. And all these folks, all these alumni people were in the chat talking about how, oh, we got to focus on building and getting all these people back to campus. And I said, and they got a little ticked, but I don't really care. I said, I would appreciate if a bunch of y'all would stop trying to run the school and listen to the experts teach you how school has changed. I said, when y'all went to colleges, it was brick and mortar. We now have folk who are going to school online. And I said, you can actually grow your institution by online learning as opposed to dealing with trying to get folks to come to the campus. And the brother was impressed. He's like, man, thank you so much. I know you could. I said, I got you. So I'm like the interpreter for a lot of the presidents. I said, I can say stuff that you can't say. But many of them just didn't understand we're living with a generation that the moment they are born into technology. Mm-hmm. So how are you, when it comes to the future of your institutions, how are you dealing with in that area? Are you seeing growth online? Are you seeing individuals? I mean, we're seeing with black churches, folk who are not even in the cities. COVID showed a lot of different people who are tithing, attending churches, and they're in different states. Mm-hmm. Talk about that. What are you seeing in that area, and how are you preparing your faculty, your staff, but also your alumni for that new reality?
That's a great question and a great point. Bishop State.
That was a great question. I asked it.
Bishop State has 3,600 students. Y'all don't know, before we started, Roland gave all of us a hard time in that back room.
No, I gave the Kappas and the Omegas a hard time.
That's fair. Roland and I gave the Kappas and the Omegas a hard time in the back room. But Bishop State has 3,600 students. 30% of our students are 100% online. The other 70%, 10% of those are hybrid students. So one of the things in higher ed that we always struggle with is providing the exact same services for the students that are there every day to the ones that are virtual. I can tell you right now, the biggest struggle we have is figuring out the mental health aspect of an online student. It's so complicated to provide telehealth services and understand that the student is fully getting everything they need from behind a computer screen.
But that also, though, changes your infrastructure dynamic, because by having 30% being online, that's 30% not in your cafeteria.
Yep.
You're not having to deal with dormitories. So it impacts the other aspects of education beyond the classroom.
Oh yeah. Or think about something like a library, right? A library is archaic to some students because they're not used to seeing the brick and mortar facility or even using the
you tell
decimal
somebody
system.
today about microfiche, they'll be like,
They don't know what that is. They don't know what that is. They don't know what the Dewey Decimal System is. So education has had to pivot, right? So think about it now. A college classroom now is not what it used to be, and our students learn differently. We have a wonderful LMS, a learning management software called Canvas, and our students and our faculty, all of them can record sessions back and forth. They can ask questions virtually. They can text and type and do all of these things using that software. It's helped us in a lot of ways, but it's expensive. It's absolutely expensive.
Rick, what was interesting when I was talking to South Carolina State alumni, I said, because so many of them were so fixated on, yeah, but they kept talking about the experience. I said, listen. I said, guys, I went to Texas A&M. I said, I've been black my whole life. I said, I get you're focusing on the experience, but it's a bunch of folk, they ain't concerned with that. They looking at the sheet of paper. I said, how many chapters y'all have? It said 39. I said, so if you want them to have the experience, why are you not aligning with your university to say, who are the students in our city who are going online, and now we have a relationship with them? They were like, man, we never even thought about that. I said, precisely. You're trying to go back to the school to do the work when you could be doing it yourself in your own city with your chapter.
You know, Roland, I don't know if you remember when Facebook came out and you sign up for it and it says relationship status, single, married. It's complicated. It's complicated because we have to not only be able to provide a real environment on campus for students, because there are some who are just absolutely going to do better in a face-to-face environment. Also, you cannot play on the football team or march in the band or be a cheerleader remote. I mean, so there is a population of students that we will always need to provide for on campus.
But then there are the people, though, who literally can't afford, though, to travel back and forth. So they want to go to Grambling, but I can't afford to live there, so there's an opportunity for them to still do so.
Absolutely. And so my next point, and Dr. Ross and I are, both of our institutions are participating in a capacity building project called the Transformation Project, where we've got benefit of the financial investment of Blue Meridian Partners. To date, $120 million that they've invested to help HBCUs grow our capacity, and one focus, it's a multi-focus project, but one focus of it is growing our online program offering. So we also use Canvas, which is, I think, probably one of the most widely used online platforms. So we are developing that, and that is an area that I think when you see HBCUs in a capacity building effort that's being funded by Blue Meridian and being administered by the Partnership for Educational Advancement, we are doing work that's not necessarily being headlined right now, but you will see both of us, our institutions and the other institutions that are involved in this, and I've used the Chinese proverb to describe it, give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime. This is a teaching us to fish moment where you will see us on the other side of this being able to absolutely dominate the online space in a way that we have the capacity and the know-how to do.
I think that when you talk about if there was a silver lining, and even with all the hell that we had to endure, the health issues, if there was a silver lining to COVID, is that COVID forced black institutions to stop being 15 years behind. What I mean by that is, a lot of people don't realize, I used to run blackamericaweb.com. I was on the Tom Driller Morning Show. Tom actually, him and his sons, came up with this HBCU online concept. And if you see Tom, do not bring HBCU online up, because he will start cussing. Because he said, I lost millions on that. He said, because it was the hardest thing in the world to get HBCU presidents and boards to understand it. He lost millions. But what COVID did, COVID forced black churches, HBCUs, black organizations, all the folk who were running away from streaming and everything. I had more people calling me like, bro, you've been doing this for, what do we even buy? And I think, so now people are forced to deal with that reality when a lot of people, it would have taken 8-10 years. Agree?
Well, listen, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think one of the worst decisions that we had to make as presidents was to send students home when COVID hit in the middle of a semester, not knowing how we would move forward. And so it did force us to think quickly about how we would continue to provide them services while they're away. Now, many of us, weren't prepared.
It was everybody.
It was everybody, not just us. Yeah, but everybody. Yes, everybody had, you had to rethink how this would happen. So it has definitely been a benefit.
Some read some manuals.
Yeah, but it still was a challenge now, because when you look at where many of us were located, so even in Alabama, just down the road, when you talk in terms of connectivity, that's why when you talk about broadband in this country, we still had students that weren't able to connect to broadband and had to deal with correspondingly, and that's a bad commentary.
I had a Montgomery board member on the show and they had to set up school buses
In our stadium.
mobile Wi-Fi's
And
around the city.
They parked in our stadium for students to come and be able to get, do things remote. So it put all of us in a position where we had to move fast. But I want to go back to what Rick has said with the investment that has been made in HBCUs through Ed Advance, through Thurgood Marshall College Fund, and Blue Meridian. It is putting us on a trajectory to be in a space where we will be able to offer all of these online offerings. And I'll give you an example. Even working through these programs, working with a program to get students who were stop-outs, right, during COVID. We just got a report back that, we were this pilot program, and that our numbers in terms of the 80% of the students that they reached out to through this partnership are returning to come and get their degree. So we learned a lot through COVID. It's putting us in a space where we're looking at our technology a lot different, staying on the cutting edge. Our faculty and staff are being trained. Canvas is what we use as well. So I think we're in a better position. But now let's not forget that we were also hubs that basically were life-saving and life-changing through COVID, because right at 915 South Jackson Street, we basically tested people for COVID, the region. We provided the vaccine for the region. Any politician, any elected official came right to an HBCU to get their vaccination. And so it also highlighted what we do with less, right? We didn't have all the means, but we had the aptitude to come up with an opportunity to provide a service to our community. And at Alabama State University, we call that Communiversity. So everyone looks at Alabama State University in the state of Alabama with our partnership as a beacon of hope. That was during a dark time where we were able to provide those services. And not only Alabama State, but in Grambling and everywhere else, our schools, right, those little schools with not enough funding were able to rise to the occasion during one of the very dark times in our society.
And I'd love to add about how flexible our people were to get through that period of COVID. Because at first we all reacted and we took everything online because we had to. Then it became, how do we provide quality education through COVID? If y'all have ever done a biology lab virtually, it is the most complicated thing to dissect a pig on a computer.
I ain't know what the hell is happening in the classroom, so I don't imagine.
It is complicated. So a lot of credit goes to our faculties and our staffs for just shifting.
Just shifting.
And you have a professor that's been teaching English in person for 25 years, and you say, you got to go home and you got to do this from behind a computer screen. That's complicated in a lot of ways. So we've gotten better through it.
Yep.
We're still training faculty every single day, but it took a lot to get to this point. And now we're changing the narrative from how do we do it to how do we provide quality education from a computer screen.
That's right.
I want to talk about another area that deals with branding. We're in a space now where it's so funny. It's really been the case since the death of George Floyd. It's a whole bunch of folk who I sit in these meetings and I laugh a lot of times because they will toss about HBCU. They never been to HBCU. They never driven by an HBCU. But it's one of the hottest four-letter words in a lot of different places. But how do you ensure and how are you making sure you're driving maximum value in not letting folk pimp our institutions on attention and just interest? Because again, it's a lot of companies want to do projects and want to do stuff. I've seen a lot of these deals and I'm going, I get paid more for a speech than that. And a lot of our folk are falling for that versus demanding maximum value for it.
Well, and I really thought when you said branding, you were talking about my Grambling branded Adidas that I'm wearing.
Yeah, I saw your shoes. I saw you.
Which is one of 6 co-branded shoes with Adidas that Grambling State University has.
I'm going to get mine to say A5A on them, but right the same color.
Well, but because I know you want to support HBCUs in a very meaningful and tangible way, I'll provide you an opportunity to go to adidas.com, in the search bar, Grambling, and you can either get these Ultra Boost or the Rivalry shoes. And I will tell you, we have outsold.
I was going to go with the Grambling drum major jacket you gave me.
That's absolutely right. The goals match perfectly, right?
I ain't got no Alabama State gear, so it's on the way. I just want to let y'all know I have a rule. I don't rep any HBCU on my show that I haven't been to. That's all I'm saying. I've been to Grambling many times, so when they see me wearing, the Southern people got really upset with me. They kept seeing me wearing Grambling stuff, and I was like, y'all got to invite a brother.
So, and here's an important point, and I don't think this is really where you want to go, but I think it's worth mentioning. When you think about our brand and the value of our brand, it's important, like with our licensing agent, CLC, that people respect our brand and not sell unlicensed merchandise, okay?
No, that's a part of it. That's a part of this conversation I want to have.
So here's where I think we as alums, as supporters of HBCUs, that we have to respect the brands of our institutions the same way we respect, Gucci and Louis Vuitton and all of that.
So let me translate Rick a little bit. Let me translate. So many of us have got to stop wanting the hookup on a hat and shirt if that vendor is selling it, because if Grambling is not getting its cut from that hat and shirt or Alabama State or any institution, then the problem is the school ain't benefiting.
That's right.
I'm sorry, go right ahead.
Yeah, and so when we have our licensing agent to shut down a website or a Facebook page or whatever because they're selling unlicensed merchandise, then they're mad at me. And if Dr. Ross does the same thing at Alabama State, they're mad at him. Well, guess what? We've got bills to pay, and we can't allow others to pimp our brands, and we not
Those are trademarks.
Appropriate.
And our fraternities and sororities are real aggressive about that because you're protecting the brand.
Right.
You don't want it showing up in certain places, but you want the financial benefit from that. How you manage that?
So I'm saying this as I'm looking at my marketing director in the audience. Bishop State, we literally just went through this exercise where we rebranded our institution. We hired a firm, we came in, we built a completely new style guide because we got tired of people distorting our brand. And what's crazy is the people that worked at the college were the ones doing it unintentionally. We were the ones doing it. So
and when you say distorting it, what? The lettering, the font,
the stretching, the font, the color, everything. So we went through this entire process where we used to just be Bishop State. Now we're Bishop State Community College because we own that badge really well. And whenever we introduce ourselves, whenever I'm speaking to somebody, I tell folks we were founded in 1927 as a branch of Alabama State University because we're proud of that. So no matter what room we're in, we own that and we push that. But internally, we've built a brand, we've hired a firm, we're going through the entire licensing project as we speak, and we're working with the local vendor that makes clothing to build his own clothing line using our brand to push to our local students. So I say all of that to say you nailed it when you said our brand is as big as we want it to be, right? So if we don't treat it correctly, if we don't protect it, then people are going to do whatever they want to it. And I hate to bring them into the conversation, but this came up. The University of Alabama, the A logo, they make $30 million a year just off the brand. And what sucks is we're the ones, a lot of us in here are the ones buying that merchandise. We could buy Grambling gear, or Alabama State gear, or Bishop State gear in the same way that we buy those brands. So that opportunity is there for us as well.
Well, that's one of the reasons why, again, when you think back to the Cosby Show, when Bill Cosby was wearing a number of items, that was intentional. That wasn't just about attention. And the reason I asked the question because one of the things that for a lot of us, some people think, well, the attention is what matters. No, if you can't pay bills, I tell people all the time, people say, well, you did a great job. I can't deposit that. I appreciate it, but I can't deposit that. So even when I'm having conversations, like I had several streaming services, they'll hit me up and they want to get the entertainers in one of their shows on my show. And then I go, but will your ad people call me to run ads? And I said, so if you value my audience for your celebrity to come on, then you better value me enough to spend money with me as well. And so what I'm talking about is there's so many people now who where HBCU is hot, but we got to make sure that they're getting maximum value and it's just not attention.
Indeed, indeed. Well, listen, first of all, let me correct the errors of my ways. I have done it in private, but I will do it publicly to invite Mr. Roland Martin to the Alabama State University. And catch this, where history is made. We are taglining. That's our brand. I have our brand.
You got the right colors too.
Yeah.
Not that purple and gold stuff, but you got the right
It
color.
has Jessica Madison and Shawnee Creighton. They have done a phenomenal job with our branding and really identifying who we are. But to your point, and both gentlemen have spoke on it, of course, we put out a cease and desist on all individuals that's just out there doing screen printing, going after them aggressively. So many times we've just kind of let that go by. And so everybody is kind of falling in line with that, and we're being just as aggressive as the fraternities as well. But even more importantly now, I call this the season of reevaluating relationships. So now we're talking about items that we purchase. I'm talking about people that you bank with. I'm talking about people that have your endowment.
Right.
At Alabama State University, we've just changed a 20-year banking relationship to go with someone who is valuing our relationship. Alabama State University, we just left someone who's had our endowment for 20-something years and gone on Wall Street to somebody who has really shown when they fly down from New York to meet with you, they value your relationship. When they fly to meet wherever you tell them to come, they value your relationship. If you look out there, you see the 18-wheeler that's rolling down the road with Bama State on it or the Mighty Merchant Hornets on it, it's because we've reevaluated our relationship and Coca-Cola values our relationship. So we have to make sure, but it's not only for us, it's, as you said, it's with our alumni, all those people who say they love our institutions. Put your money where your mouth is, and as you said, stop looking for a hookup.
So it was, the reason this is so important, I did Rick and I had this conversation many times. I did a show, and I was talking about media rights, and I said that every president, every board chair, they should be looking at all contracts, food services contracts, janitorial contracts. I went through everything, and I was at the UNCF conference last year in Atlanta, and I was watching your show,